check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. We're all saying hi.
Hi.
This is a different format than we usually do, so we don't have...
We don't have an intro here.
No.
I'm going to say what's up.
Hey, Ben.
What's up?
Hey.
Hi. This is a form of Blank Check, a podcast about filmographies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Griffin.
David.
Here's the thing we haven't really done.
A supplementary episode?
Yes.
An appendix?
I guess Alex Ross Perry called in with the Jason Schwartzman Memories of Nora Ephron's Bewitched,
Sure.
which we then tacked on to the episode.
Sure.
That was a similar format, but not done by us. We outsourced that. But a big movie we have recorded an episode about. It was presented to us the opportunity to speak to one of the stars, one of the Academy Award nominated stars. Nominated for this performance in this movie.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you get a good email?
Congratulations. No, I'm waiting for you to wrap up
That's
this
the name
intro.
of Ben's clothing line.
Yeah, it's
congratulations.
got all kinds of different designs available now. Congratulations.com.
Do you know this, Amy? Ben has a clothing line.
I did not know this.
It's
yeah,
pretty good.
I've got various different designs, t-shirt designs, some accessories, buried jeans.
Buried jeans?
Correct.
Oh, here we go.
Dig in. Feel free to
So,
dig into this,
What
Amy.
is buried jeans?
Great question.
I decided why not manipulate jeans naturally? So I buried jeans in the ground, therefore, like basically letting the earth distress them.
And does that work?
It did work.
What does it look
I mean, it
like?
made them dirty.
Two out of three.
If you mean
You're not talking like stonewashed look.
No, beyond
That's really
that.
a throwback we don't need to go back to.
So you're anti-distressed jeans
I'm
generally.
you know what? I'd like to make my own holes.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
this is
Self-distress.
kind of the philosophy, right? Is that there's an intellectual dishonesty to the fake, manufactured, corporatized, distressed jeans, and Ben said, let the earth distress them.
Yeah.
And so what does it look like when it comes? Do you have a picture?
I sure do. I can
Show me after.
Yeah, I'll show you after. I actually 3D scan them so you can get the full scope of
This
it.
is all real. This is all very much real.
So if I have a copy machine, you can just send me one and I can put it on?
I could
That
print them
kind of
for
thing?
you.
Is that what you
Yes.
mean by
I mean,
the
I could
3D?
print a little figurine if you'd like.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I don't. I wanted to wear them.
Oh, I see.
If I
Well,
like them, I want to wear them.
Well,
they're available.
There's
Oh,
a
wait.
picture.
Oh, ew.
Glad I got that reaction on Mike.
Also, just to be
Looks
clear,
like Day of the Dead.
just to be clear, he buried 3 pairs. 1 pair was unsalvageable.
That's true. It was too deep into the ground, so they kind of disintegrated.
Yeah.
But it's a learning process. Like I'm only just getting started here.
Have you got backers?
No one would back this.
This
People
podcast
back away.
is kind of the backer,
I would.
unwittingly.
Have you got any other ideas?
Yeah.
You're F. Murray Abraham.
I
and,
do. I absolutely
Inside Lou and Dave.
do.
I don't see a lot of money.
Another concept I have is I want to come up with like a moth box where I put clothing into it, let the moths chew them up a little bit, and then take it out after a period of time. That's another sort of concept that I've been thinking of.
I should be clear. He has like 20 products on his site right now. Most of them are not eaten
He
by
mostly just makes
elements
really
of nature.
fun
Okay, but if you
clothes.
do the moth thing, you're going to have to come up with something wonderful for underneath whatever that thing is, because
Layers.
the moth won't know not to bite the nipple.
Good point. Incredibly good point.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
true. Okay. Well, it's all about layering. So I will try and come up with something to pair with the whole
I look forward, Ben,
clothes.
to seeing what you come up with.
Amy
I
Irving is
appreciate
here
that, Amy.
in the studio.
Hi.
Star of YENTL.
No, well, not the star. Barbara's the
Co-star of YENTL.
Yeah, thank you.
Oscar-nominated co-star of YENTL. I'm trying to think. We talked about on this podcast, we've done Roger Rabbit, which you did the singing voice for.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Oh, in Amy's filmography, it's a good question. Have we covered any other?
We haven't done De Palma.
No, I'd love to do De Palma.
You'd love to do De Palma. I would love to do De Palma.
It'd be fun, right?
We haven't done Soderbergh.
No.
Jeez, who have you done?
Well, you see, the problem with De
fair
Palma
number
and
of people.
Soderbergh is we
A
do
lot of
every
films.
movie, and
Right.
those guys
This is our
are
format.
prolific. It's a lot of movies.
Yeah.
It's like half the year with either of them.
Barbara was
especially
very easy.
Soderbergh.
It's 3. It's just like you toss up 3.
I think you're the only one who's ever said Barbara was very easy.
We put Joan Micklin Silver on a bracket
We did.
once. I'd love to do her.
I'd like to put her on again. Did we put her on, or are we about to put her on?
Maybe we're about to put her on.
I think we're about to put her on.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I'm not sure we've ever covered any of your other work, but we should.
It hurts
obviously.
my feelings that you haven't even gone there yet.
We're digging
There's
in.
a lot of movies
Okay.
in the
We're
world.
starting.
I'm here.
This is the new
Better
era.
hurry. I'm getting old.
We're leveling up.
We could do the Carrie series on Patreon because you're
We
in
could.
Carrie too as well, right?
Oh,
I'm sorry to bring it up.
I've never seen it. I was hoping they'd cut me out.
And are you not playing the same character, or are you? I've never seen the Rage.
I
Carrie
think
2.
it's the same.
It is the same character. I couldn't
Just-
remember.
Yeah.
Older and uglier.
Come on.
The story is that you agreed to do that movie as a favor for your other son, right? Your son Gabriel, who's a friend of ours, is here in the studio, helped negotiate this happening. Isn't the story that he begged you to do Carrie 2? Or am I getting this wrong?
Is that true, Gabe? Max did, yeah. Because I had done, and I had to do something for you too. Alias. I did Alias for you
Well, that
and
was a good
Carrie
call.
2 for Max.
Yeah.
Alias is good.
Yeah, you win, Gabe.
Yeah. I'm not throwing haymakers at Max, but Gabe maybe has
But
better
the thing
taste
is,
as a
Brian
child.
De Palma also encouraged me to do Carrie 2.
Oh, but
Oh,
yeah,
really?
but he didn't show up.
Yeah,
That's
we're
very
seeing-
easy for him to say.
No, but he was always very protective of me and
Okay.
cared about me. And when I was on the fence about whether I should do it, I went to him and we talked about it and I gave him the script. And at the time, we liked the director.
Female
the
director, right?
Sure.
Cache.
Well, that wasn't the director at the time.
Oh,
When
there's
I
a
agreed to
different
do
director?
the film, it was another
Interesting.
director. I'm not going to go. I won't go
No,
into
no,
that because
sure.
that's
We
very
don't.
nice.
You're definitely not here to talk about the Rage Carrie
Okay,
2.
good.
I mean, you can if you
I
want.
don't want to talk about it. I don't.
You clearly
I'm,
don't
I'm
wanna talk
sorry I
about it.
ever made that film.
Okay,
Wow.
but at the moment
tough.
you agreed to it,
Except
maybe.
they paid me a shitload.
Well,
of money.
Well, then
Hey.
all right.
Hey.
because like no one ever saw it anyways.
You know the
Getting out scot-free.
Michael Caine joke about Jaws: The Revenge,
What?
It's a great joke.
where he said, "I haven't seen the movie. By all accounts, it was terrible, but I have seen the house it built, and by all accounts, it's lovely."
Exactly. I feel the same. I'm
Right.
gonna. I chapeau Michael Caine.
YENTL, is it fair to say, was a big turning point movie for you? You had done a lot of work up until that point already. You had an established career, but certainly, like, getting an Oscar nomination has to be a huge thing.
Yes, it was a big thing. I remember I was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in my little Mickey Mouse house. It's a Mickey Mouse house because on an architectural plan, it looks like Mickey Mouse. I had these little turrets going up and this roundhouse. It was very sweet. And I was up there by myself that morning. I wasn't even, I know that a lot of actors, they sit around waiting to see if they got nominated or they watch the morning or
Right.
whatever. I so had no.
You weren't like today's
inkling.
Oscar nomination morning. I'll wait by the phone.
I
Like,
had
that's
no
not in your
idea it was
mind.
even happening.
Right.
You know, I would never expect it from the role anyway. And I was with my dog Sapphire at the time, and I remember my agent called me and said, "Are you sitting?" And I sat, and she told me, and I got up and jumped up and down for a while, and called my sister. And who lived in Santa Fe, who could come and jump up and down with me for a little bit. So yeah, it was pretty exciting.
Here's the
I feel-
thing.
There's
David,
less
please.
of an Oscar industry back
Well,
then. It's not like
right.
you're getting like 18 calls beforehand of like, oh, you got this critics
Oh
award.
no, I
or,
didn't
"Oh."
have to. I didn't have to work the
Right, you
room.
didn't-
because
yeah,
I
you didn't have to
I didn't
go
have
for
to
4 months.
campaign. No.
Right. You didn't get a Golden Globe nomination, not to bring up this horrible snub, but so
The
you hadn't
SAGs
even
didn't
gotten the
exist at
warning.
point.
Right.
Because there's that
You
thing,
didn't.
like,
Isn't that crazy?
rude.
Incredibly rude.
But Barbara did.
Barbara and Mandy both
Barbara
did.
won Best Director.
Hey, you got to spread the cheer,
Oh,
man.
totally.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think that was the thing. Barbara won Best Director from the Globes and then didn't get nominated.
By the Oscars.
Yes. To David's point, it's like nowadays there are 70 awards that happen before the Oscar nominations. So you're maybe more aware if you're in the running or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether or not you're in a major film, you're like, okay, I've gotten 5 nominations so far. I might be in the mix.
Right. But if I didn't even get the Golden Globe nomination, I guess that's why I didn't bother waking up for the
It's kind of
announcement.
Right.
the one bellwether at that point, aside from like critics groups. SAG doesn't exist. There are far fewer
And
things.
it was still considered a little bit of a joke at that time, wasn't it?
This is the thing we want to talk about because I want to make it clear. This wildly pro YENTL podcast. We think YENTL rules, but we're both guys who were not alive when this movie came out.
Right.
And grew
God, I
up
feel
in a
old.
world.
sorry.
Apologies.
Wow.
Apologies.
You weren't even alive.
Same as just your son.
Well, I'm older than your son, to be clear.
That's right.
Okay,
You weren't
humble
alive
brag.
either, were you, Gabe?
My parents were probably dating by the time YENTL came out. Like I was only 3 years away.
I don't know if that makes it better. I mean, my
Okay.
parents were dating when YENTL comes out. We can all play this game.
The fact is, you weren't born yet. That's
No,
right.
I'm born in 86. Film is 83.
We talk a lot about this movie's weird reputation, like its cultural legacy as like a joke. Is this movie for real or not? Right? And certainly we've like dug into when it was coming out, that was the attitude it was met with. But also we're born into a world where even though YENTL had come out, was a hit, got good notices.
Was it a hit?
It was.
Did you not perceive it as a hit at the time, or did
I
you not
never
really
paid
care?
attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
right.
never know how much anything makes. I never know if it's big or small. I know when I get recognized a little bit more or whatever for
Sure.
something, but I don't pay attention.
What do
to
you
that.
mostly get recognized for? I would guess.
Crossing to Delancey, I think.
Well, you're the star of that, I guess, as well. Like that's
Yeah.
right.
And
Yeah.
I did. I got the poster on that.
You got the
You
poster.
sure did.
Yeah.
The poster's like your face too. It's all Amy.
Yeah. It's like 90% Amy, 10% Peter Riger. He's,
Riger's
like,
in the
tiny.
corner.
Rieger, yeah.
Rieger. Sorry.
YENTL made lots of money, to be
Right.
clear, and yeah, it was a big hit.
In the moment of its release, there was a certain degree of like Streisand silenced her critics. And then by the time we're born, it's already like YENTL's kind of a punchline again. And not even like a punchline as like the movie's a joke, but it's like very easy to joke about the movie. Because if you look at the elements on paper, this is what we love about it, by the way.
Right.
If you look at the elements on paper, you're like, this movie should not work. Fundamentally, this is an unmakeable film.
Right. You got early 40s Barbara Streisand basically playing a teenager, right? Like, it's a musical, but only she sings. Like these
Right.
things that are like, well, that doesn't make sense. You wouldn't like, I don't know. That's why YENTL's so good, though. I mean, in my opinion.
I agree. And I cited on the episode, not knowing at the time if you were going to come on or not, so I swear I'm not just saying this to butter you up, but I do think your performance is really key to the movie working because of how genuinely I buy your love and attraction to YENTL.
Yeah, that was important.
The sensitivity of it. Like you look at YENTL as a character in a way that I think makes the audience accept this could happen. Like she could pass. Everyone would accept this.
Right.
You know, because there's a certain amount of theatrical suspension of disbelief in the movie. Barbara's not wearing like a fake beard, right? And she's not doing like an extreme voice or anything. There's just a bit of Barbara Streisand cut her hair, put a yarmulke on, and everyone's going to accept that she's a teenage boy
It's a wig.
in the reality of the movie. But like the character, I'm saying, I think most people wouldn't fall for the YENTL ruse in reality. But in the movie, the way you look at her, I'm like, I believe it.
Yeah, you may, if you skip the filmography and go to the biography, you'll notice that I marry directors.
I have noticed that.
And I got to say, her being the director, automatically she would be someone I would be respectful of and probably attracted to anyway.
Interesting.
Because I just I'm in awe of people who can direct because I can't. When I read a script, I don't have this
Right. You don't see how it looks
overall
in your head.
vision of how it should be done. And I wish I had a talent like that because except I don't like the hours of the directors. But I do. My father was a director.
Mhm.
I was in love with my father,
Mhm.
and I tend to be in love with directors. I'm married to a director now. My first two husbands were directors. I've deviated a few times, but basically, my first love was a theater director. So, for my director to be my YENTL, my co-star, and the woman, the man I'm supposed to be in love with, it just kind of. It works for me, you know.
genuine
I just,
transference.
I flirted with her. I was like I flirt with my directors anyway. So
She's the first woman who directed you in a film, at least from your filmography that I can tell. I think. You had only.
I think so.
I mean,
'cause I've
obviously there
worked
weren't a
with
lot of women
I've
making
worked
movies.
with a lot of women, but she was the first. Yeah, I
Right.
guess so. Wait a minute.
Are we forgetting one?
I don't know. I always forget.
Well, like for your filmography, this is just
I
films,
believe you.
obviously,
I
not
believe
theater
you.
or TV. You got Carrie and the Fury with Brian De Palma, the great. You got Voices with Robert Markowitz. You have Honeysuckle Rose with Schatzberg, right?
Right.
And the Competition with Joel Oliansky.
Mm-hmm.
Not a film I know. Should I check it out? I don't know that movie.
Well, there's some nice
Dreyfuss.
things about it.
Okay.
I like it. Richard Dreyfuss and myself, we play concert pianists in competition, and
That sounds fun.
Lee Remick is his teacher. You know, there's some nice
I love
people in it.
Lee
Sam
Remick.
Wanamaker. It's a nice film.
And then you take a 3-year break between that and YENTL, or at least there's 3 years in between those two movies, YENTL and The Competition.
Theater, darling.
Theater.
You trod the
Yes.
boards.
After my first 5 films, I was feeling unsatisfied because I grew up in the theater and I trained to be a stage actress. I trained for 4 years, 3 years in London, a year in San Francisco. I love the theater. It's part of my makeup. I think my most comfortable place in the world is in a dressing room in a theater. It feels like home because Mom and Dad didn't want to be away from us 3 kids growing up. So they would bring us all to the theater every night. And I would either fall asleep in Mom's dressing room or in the wardrobe department, or Mom would put us in the second row center and watch all 3 of us fall asleep as she's playing Kate in Taming of the Shrew or Masha, whatever. So, I mean, that's how I grew up. So the theater is and I was really, after The Competition, I was feeling I needed to get back on the stage. And I did 9 months in Amadeus with
Oh, wow.
Ian McKellen and Peter Firth. And
So McKellen was Salieri? Yeah.
He must have phoned that in, right? I can't imagine that guy fitting. Was he like unreal to watch work?
he was awesome.
Yeah.
He seems like one of those guys who can just like truly turn it on a dime
Yeah.
and
No,
suddenly tap into like the most dramatic depths.
Yeah. No, he's very technically proficient and brilliant and smart and you know, he knows his stuff. It was quite a privilege to be on the stage with him.
He won the Tony for that, I remember. And Tim Curry was the original.
Tim Curry was the
Mozart,
original,
right.
and Jane Seymour, and then Peter
Right.
Firth and I. Jane got pregnant very early on in the run, so they replaced her. And I guess I don't know why Tim left with her, and
Sure.
Peter Firth and I went in.
And Peter Firth had already done Equus, I'm assuming.
Yes, and he was Peter Schaffer's friend.
Do you still know him?
Yes,
He's the best.
I
I mean, I
love
don't know
him.
him as a person.
I love him.
He had this whole late run in Britain. I grew up in Britain. On this show called Spooks. It was called Spooks in Britain. It's called MI5
I
here or
watched
whatever, where
it,
he's
yeah.
the boss. He's so good in it.
He's very good.
And it was one of those things where it's like, it's Peter Firth. He's kind of, you know, like he's back.
People don't know him at all, and he's so great. Amadeus, I used to sit on the side of the stage and just watch him perform every night just because he was so amazing to watch.
Well, if you're like in a place where you're getting frustrated with film, you want to go back to theater. That's basically the best production you could have jumped into at that point in
Sure.
time. When you're in this headspace, are you thinking, I might be done with film forever, I prefer theater, I want to go back to that? Or was it more of a, I need to reconnect with theater, recharge, and wait to see if something actually calls me?
Well, I think I was so happy to be back on the stage that when, I guess 8 months into the run, I got offered YENTL and I turned it down.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I'm so happy to be back on the stage. The character was a body woman, and I you know, to play a sweet young thing in a movie just didn't excite me.
Yeah.
And that's how it came off on the. That's what it seemed to me was another sweet young thing, and I knew I could do that standing on my head, and I liked the challenge, so I turned it down.
So, right. So then how does it come back around to you? Did they, like, why did you end up doing YENTL?
Well, one of my friends on the show was very angry at me because he was a big fan of Barbara's.
And she'd been trying to make this movie for years at this point
Yeah.
already, right?
And she asked me, would I come up to her Upper West Side apartment and sit down with her?
Hell yeah.
How long after turning it down do you think this is? Because the movie was in development for so long. Was this pretty shortly after, or was this like
That she came back to me?
Yeah.
No, right away.
right away? Okay.
Right away.
She's basically all sweater in person.
Yeah.
She, Barbara knows what she wants and she goes after it. I admire her so much for that. But she had me over and I'm sitting in her apartment and she very passionately discussed her dream.
Right.
And asked me to be a part of her dream. And it's really hard to say no to that.
There's no way I could possibly say no to that.
Well, it's not just that it was Barbara Streisand. It's just, the sensibility of working with someone who, on that level of care, and the heart was so in it, that's the kind of people I wanted to work with. It was impossible to say no.
Also, what you're saying of, feeling I've played this type of part before, it doesn't feel challenging to me on paper. You can get pigeonholed so easily as an actor, even more the more successful you are, and you had sort of such a straight launch. You jumped into movies in the deep end and were really hitting, and then it sounds like got frustrated with the limitations, the repetition, whatever it is. So if you're just reading it on paper, you're like, this is someone being lazy, wanting to see me do the same thing I've done before. It's a second thought. If someone is really explaining the passion and the thought and the vision of it to you, where it's not just, you're a color I can reach for, but this is specifically what I want out of you, that must land very differently.
Yeah. And also she was very flattering in that she was, as far as men being attracted to this woman, she just thought, she kept telling me, you're like a dream Jewess, and she just made me feel like I was going to appeal. And I wasn't brought up Jewish. I was brought up as a Christian Scientist, not practicing.
Okay,
but Dad was a self-hating Jew and Mom was a Christian Scientist. So we didn't have any Jewish stuff in our house. So we didn't deal with Judaism at all. I just played famous Jewish characters.
Here are two things JJ, our researcher for the show, brought up that we talked about on the main episode that I want to ask you about. One is, and I know very often actors aren't necessarily super aware of who else was discussed for the role at some other point in time. I only ask you about this one because I know she's one of your closest friends. In the research, JJ found that Streisand wanted Carol Kane to play the role at some point. Does that sound correct?
I imagine she would explore that idea.
Sure.
She had done Hester Street, it just made sense.
That's how it was presented.
Also, this is 10 years of her trying to get this movie made.
And coming off of Hester Street, it felt like an obvious thing. But the two of you have never discussed that.
No,
okay.
I actually didn't know. I didn't know that she was. I mean, I imagine that Barbara considered a lot of different people.
I think that's the sort of 70s version of this movie that she almost put together, and it would, this movie would kept falling apart on her, I think.
Yes.
Because the financiers would eventually kind of be like, nah, you're too old, or nah, nobody wants to see, too Jewish, too all the roadblocks you can imagine this movie facing.
Well, this I JJ can't be wrong on, but you can push back on this. He found the Life magazine interview you did when this movie was coming out. Talking about your adoration for Streisand and how that translated on camera. That she really kind of doted on you.
She doted on me?
Yes. You said I was like her little doll that she could dress up.
Yeah, I don't think that was so much doting. It's just that it was a doll that she could stand in front of the light and say, let's match the peaches to her lips, and she would be able to get little palettes and stuff, and colors and stuff that match the wallpaper. That's what I meant as far as the doll.
Sure. Doting was my word, used incorrectly.
I don't think she doted on me, but I know she did not dote.
Did she dote on anybody, or what's she like as a director? I guess is the
I don't think there was doting is personal.
Yeah, I take it back.
You kind of make it sound like maybe De Palma sort of doted on, or was protective of you. You said had a kind of,
he cared about me.
Right.
We were friends.
Right.
Barbara and I were not friends.
In this interview, you sort of imply that because Streisand was not able to put the energy into the beautification of her own image in the movie in the same way she usually did, a lot of that transferred onto you. Is that fair to say? The skill she had learned in her career of how to make Barbara Streisand look incredible on camera. And one of these movie stars we've talked about that even when she was acting, knew her lighting.
Knew which side worked for her.
Knew her lenses, knew how other people, not only how she needed to perform, but how the entire crew needed to work around her, and that she maybe put a lot of that same skill and knowledge onto you.
It's good because I didn't have it. I mean, she was like, yeah, she was the first person that got me to change my hair color. She changed me to a redhead. I'd never colored my hair before. And suddenly I had henna in my hair. And she asked me to, in one scene, she wanted me to be crocheting a doily. So my last month on Amadeus, I'm backstage learning how to crochet doilies. And I made this one large doily. I was so proud of it. It was a little flawed. And I gave it to her as a gift on our first day of shooting. And I think she laughed at it. But and then she handed me a sampler and said, I don't want you to be doing doilies. I want you to be doing samplers. And I didn't know how to do samplers. So like I'm on camera and I'm making worms in my picture. You have no idea. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. But
outside of crocheting, from the moment you have the meeting with her in her apartment, you're in, right? You agree to do the movie from that point on?
I did. She asked me to cut my salary in half.
Okay.
Because the movie needed to be cheap? Like, what's the
I think they only had a certain amount in the budget. And that's what she said, would you do it for half your salary? But then she said also, if your voice is on the album,
you get
because
that.
I talk, then you end up getting money from the album. But then she ended up taking me off the album.
Well, okay, I have several questions about this. Was it frustrating to you? You're a wonderful singer. You had an album come out. You're working on a second one right now. I saw you at City Winery earlier this year with friend of the podcast, Richard Lawson. You destroyed.
That's a good thing.
Thank you.
Yes, incredible show.
Thank you.
Did you feel frustrated being in a musical where you don't get to sing? And obviously it's not a pointed thing because she's the only one who sings.
Right, you're also, Mandy Patinkin is there. He doesn't get to, a lot of very talented singers are here.
Well, I didn't think of myself as a singer back then, but I do hum in one scene, and she dubbed my humming.
Really?
Wow. Did she do it herself?
For what reason? It was her humming? Babs.
But I wasn't frustrated about that. I can tell you Mandy was frustrated about that. And I understand. Mandy's got the most beautiful voice,
So what was your, outside of crocheting, what was your prep process from the moment?
Crocheting doilies.
Crocheting
it's different
doilies.
It's a very specific
You're not making a
art.
sweater. You're making this tiny, intricate
it's like
little
you got
pointless
string
thing.
to play with. Yeah,
Right.
it's very delicate work.
From the moment Streisand sells you on it to when the film starts filming, how long do you think that was? Did it come together pretty quickly at that point?
I don't remember.
Don't remember.
We're talking how long ago?
Apparently, production began April 1982. I can tell you that much.
Do you know when I closed in Amadeus?
Great question.
You know what?
Look it up,
Might
David.
be on IBDB. You never know.
But what else do you
Man,
remember?
you did the Coast to Utopia, right? Was that like the biggest pain in the ass in the world? I mean, it's such a good play, but so long, so much talking.
What was the question?
I'm just now looking at your Broadway credits that I've
Coast of Utopia.
Coast of Utopia is one of the most thrilling experiences of my life.
Yeah.
It was, Jack O'Brien, Tom Stoppard, that cast, that play. My favorite thing was marathon days where we'd start the play at 11 in the morning and finish it at 11 at night. We'd do all three with dinner and lunch breaks, and it was thrilling.
I saw it all in one night. Not all in one day, I should say.
Okay.
That's the way to see it,
yes,
too.
it was so cool. I was a teenager. I didn't understand half of the history of Russian intellectuals, obviously, but I was like, what? I've never seen anything like this before. I can't find your run. All right, replacements. Here we go. Amy Irving. Doesn't give me your run dates. I'm sorry.
What else do you remember?
It does say that Jane Seymour got pregnant, and that's one reason she left the show.
I think I came in winter.
Okay.
So you'd probably, right.
Pretty close together.
Right.
What else was part of the prep process for you? From the moment you get the parts. Are there things you remember working on specifically, or are there things that Streisand specifically tried to push you to outside of crocheting? Were you on your own?
I was on my own, but she was very specific on the set.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a read through and we had some rehearsing. We all were in London shooting, and the first read through, the guy playing her father.
Who's so good.
Nope. Wait for it.
Oh.
The guy playing her father, the film, we read through the whole film. He says, "What a beautiful story," and drops dead.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
An incredible
we're sitting there with
as like the table read, right?
At the table read. And, Nehemiah Persoff was fantastic. He came in and took over. But that was kind of a tough beginning.
I was going to
to
cast a
watch someone
pall
die.
over, right?
That's the thing. We had heard that story and we're like, what an incredible story. But then to hear you describe it, you're like, well, now I'm thinking about the moment after that
Now the
happens
movie
where
feels cursed.
you're just
Right.
in a room
We're
with a dead
in a room with a dead person.
Yeah, that's a very different perception of it.
Yeah, that's the only dead person I've ever seen.
I was going to ask.
I don't think I've. Were you?
I genuinely was. I was debating whether or not it was an appropriate question.
So
I don't think I've ever seen another. I've seen a dead dog.
Sure.
well, sure.
My first dog, Meg. I was the one who found her dead on the.
Your son has his head in his hands.
Meg was 8 and was dead on the living room floor. Did I see someone else dead? I shouldn't talk about this.
Where are the bodies buried?
So he
Amy?
gets replaced. That actor, right? The dad is Nehemiah Persoff. Right.
I don't know how I remembered that.
Yeah, no,
That's a
it's
great
good
job
call.
by you.
It's a great name.
Yeah, incredible name.
But I guess you're mostly acting with Barbara. Obviously, I'm trying to think who you're.
And Mandy.
Mandy. Like, right.
And my parents.
Yes. Who played
My-
your parents?
Stephen
Stephen Hill.
Stephen Hill. right?
Hill, who was kosher.
Yes.
So like during the dinner scenes, behind his plate, his real food would be so he could eat
Wow.
during the scenes. Yeah. And he'd have to be finished at a certain time.
We talked about this, but he was so kosher that it killed his career for decades.
You think?
Yeah,
Wasn't he like on Law and Order for?
He did Law and Order.
That's
for a zillion years
post comeback,
later.
but he
Right.
got dropped off of Mission Impossible because he refused to work on the Sabbath.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, they need you to, do whatever it is. To put your masks on Saturday. Or
Your
whatever.
mission, if you choose to accept it, work on a Friday. Flip a light switch.
You're shooting in London, right?
only in London and
Mhm.
Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia.
Exteriors
for the
with
exteriors.
Czechoslovakia.
Right. And yeah, what's Barbara like as a filmmaker?
I felt like I was in great hands.
Mm-hmm.
The woman does her homework.
Mm-hmm. It's her
She-
first
It's her
film.
first film, but she is so ready. And she knows to hire a David Watkins, who's like a brilliant cinematographer.
Mhm.
We called him Sleepy Watkins because he had, believe he had narcolepsy, and we'd find him asleep.
It's on his Wikipedia page that he
Is
was
it?
notorious for sleeping on set. Yes, in
but
between setups.
his work is brilliant.
Mhm.
But she surrounded herself with amazing people. I mean, the script supervisor was a filmmaker.
Oh, wow.
Zelda Barron. She's a brilliant woman
Mhm.
who made her own films as well, but she had, rightfully so, when you're starring in a film, you need an outside eye. And Zelda was very good to have for that. And as well as Rusty Lemon. There were various people there keeping an eye on her, to make sure while she's directing, she doesn't forget about the acting. And
Rusty Lemirande.
Lemirande.
Not to be insensitive, but if
Uh-oh.
you've had an actor die at a table read, it must have had people really on edge working with a narcoleptic DP.
Yes, I guess that could make you nervous, but we knew that.
Okay.
We knew that.
Okay, you knew it going in.
He lived another like 20, 30 years after that.
I didn't say he was dying, but I'd be worried all the time. Anytime you see someone
I just
responsive
was
in the corner of
remembering
the
another
room.
dead. No, he didn't die. That's right. When we were doing Coast of Utopia,
Mhm.
the man who Richard Easton was my husband. I played his wife in the first part. He had a heart attack on the stage.
Wow, God.
And literally, he's Jack O'Brien's best friend. So Jack and I are holding hands while the paramedics are there doing the what do you call
The
it?
paddles, the
paddles
defibrillators.
and
Yeah.
his legs
Right.
going and everything. I mean, literally, Ethan Hawke was, is there a doctor in the house? It was that kind of moment, you
Wow.
know. So that he survived. So that was good.
The audience are like, this is interesting. Stoppard's really, he's taking an interesting route here,
Yeah.
I worked with an actor once. I think he now has since passed, but who had a heart attack. What was he doing? A Streetcar Named Desire. This guy named Jerry Grayson. And his big thing he would brag about all the time was that he still did the second act of the show. That he had a heart attack in intermission.
I don't know if that's worth bragging about, Jerry.
He bragged about it a lot.
It does sound kind of stupid.
I agree.
Hey, take care of yourself, Jerry.
Really? Go to the hospital.
Is
My
she-
father died of a heart attack, so I can say that.
Yeah.
is she, Barbara, like, is she giving you notes like while you're, I feel like when you're actor director, there's an awkwardness to like you're doing a scene together and then cut and then lean right in, you know, like is that sort of a tricky territory to navigate, like an actor giving you notes essentially because they're also the filmmaker?
Well, you know, that's what it was. So
Yeah.
I guess I didn't feel it was weird at all.
Do you have, because I feel it's very different for actors. Like there's not a universal acting language, right? It's such a bizarre profession.
Yeah.
And it's such a bizarre art form, and it gets more bizarre when it's made into a profession and there's money and pressure on it, right? And it's so internalized, and it's using your own body, that when people talk about an actor who is quote unquote good with directors, or a director, sorry, who is good with actors or knows how to talk to actors, it's like, well, there's no universal thing there.
No, but a good director knows that you can't there's not one way to talk
Correct.
to an actor.
Exactly.
Because each actor needs something different.
Knows
you
how
know?
to shift to different people.
Some actors want line readings. Some actors don't want line readings ever. Some don't want anything. Some want, you know, to tell you what you had for breakfast. I mean, it's just everybody has needs. So the director has to become a psychologist.
Right.
You know, you have to have a sensitivity to people to be able to get what you can. I mean, I'm so bad with names.
Hey, you pulled her
I
dad at the
know.
yeah.
Nehemiah Perstuff. That's I shot my wad.
Yeah.
Are you a specific film? Or are you trying to remember
Just the most famous, wonderful director that ever lived, whose house I lived in.
You know this kid?
Thank you.
Elia Kazan.
Elia Kazan.
Oh,
You know,
sure.
he would, before
Well-known
he
guy.
directed anybody, he'd, you know, take you out and
Well,
talk
sure.
to you and find out your deepest pain and tap into that, you know, get there. When I was working with De Palma, it was our first film, Carrie, so he didn't know me as well yet. So when he needed me to cry, he doesn't know me yet, so he doesn't know that all you have to do is say, I need you to cry, and if you could make it through the left eyeball, that would be preferable to me. You could do that with me.
Sure.
But he didn't know that. So he had Betty Buckley get behind the camera, who was playing the gym teacher, and bawl me out for throwing Tampax and Modas at Carrie, you know,
which you shouldn't have done, to be
I
clear.
really,
It was very mean of you.
I know. I gave up. I let Billy go to Tommy, that's his real name, to the prom. But yeah, no. So yeah, I cried because Betty's pretty good at hurling those abuses, and it was unnecessary. So you really, you need to, you know, by the time we did The Fury together, he knew how to help me and hold my hand.
Is there a preferred language for you? Like, what is the thing that is most helpful for a director to do?
To say to me,
yeah,
you're perfect.
You want
go in. No, actually, I do not. I don't want to be shut down. So I need to have an atmosphere that's relaxed, which everybody needs. Blake Edwards, when we did Mickey and Maude, his set was literally a party.
Mm-hmm.
And to go out there and play was just part of your joy and fun. There was never any discipline involved. And usually he did it all in a master. So you controlled the tempo of the comedy and everything. You know, and I'm out there with Dudley Moore and having so much fun doing it. But that's his way of working, and that's where he gets the relaxation and the humor, whatever. But for something else, that wouldn't necessarily work.
Yeah.
When I was doing Heartbreak House on Broadway, Anthony Page, who's a wonderful English director, we'd do a run through, and he'd be scribbling and scribbling and scribbling, and I'm seeing him scribble, and I'm thinking every time I open my mouth, you know, you think, oh God, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And then he comes, and notes were telling you what you're doing right.
Mm.
And then when you know you're doing right, then you take it to the next step.
Yeah,
you know, you go further. If you keep being told what you're doing wrong, you
get in your head.
You're just trying to correct.
It gets in your head, and I shut down. You know, so me personally, just keep patting me on the back and pushing me forward. You know, just tell me I'm doing fine, and I'll give you more.
So Streisand, unsurprisingly, seems to keep a very complete archives of everything, every element of everything she's ever worked on. And like the Blu-ray disc for her movies have so much like just raw takes rehearsal footage
Really? I have
where you're
to
just
find
sort of
these.
watching process. I'll loan you my copy.
No,
But
I don't really want to see it.
there's one clip that went semi-viral on Twitter like a month or two ago. That was her in the sort of breakdown confrontation scene where Mandy Patinkin is yelling at her after he's found out.
Disrespected the Torah. All
Right.
that. Yeah, right.
And you're just watching the raw take of it, and she is directing him mid-take. And it felt, we were talking about this, and David was like, well, that feels like a thing that would usually not be the right move for a director. That's the kind of thing that might piss an actor off. But I felt watching it, that is her very cannily knowing that's actually what she needs to do to get what she wants out of Patinkin. Knowing how much tension there maybe was in the relationship between the two of them in the movie, that there's something strategic about her maybe doing something that's pushing his buttons.
Really? She wants to piss Mandy off more?
Well, this is my thought.
Every story about this movie, though, is that he was already such an exposed sort of nerve. Like he was very
Mandy
upset.
was going through a bad time then. I mean, not a bad time. I mean, I don't know him at all. But at one point, Barbara called me at night, and upset and just, what did I do? I don't understand why he doesn't like me, and I took him aside and I said, Mandy, why do you behave like this? And he says, I can't help it. I just can't help it. I don't want to be this way. I can't help it. And I said, well, do something about that.
I feel like he did.
I think he did do something.
He seems to have
I think he
mellowed
did.
out.
I think he's mellowed out
He ta-
totally.
and
But I feel like
talks
even in
about
the
it,
90s, he still had this rep of he's brilliant, but he's,
I bet he might have been a little nervous too.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. It's a lot of pressure, and the role has a lot of pressure on it, within the movie, but also it's
And
like,
how many
this is
times have you
Barbara's big
seen
movie.
Mandy before that as a leading man with opposite someone like Barbara?
That was the first
I mean,
well,
he's
'cause
very young, right? I mean, he's
is that
probably in his late 20s or something.
before or after he drops out of Heartburn.
Jesus,
Well, he
I don't have that chronological
This is
in
Heartburn.
my head.
Well, I think Heartburn's after,
Okay.
but he didn't drop out. He was fired from
Right,
Heartburn.
yes, I'm sorry. But that was a similar-
That's 86.
Too difficult.
Before this, he'd done he's in Ragtime and he's in, but these are supporting roles. These are, this isn't, the movie isn't on him in the same way.
But he also, at that time, his wife, Catherine, was very pregnant with their first child. It was a major time in his life. So if he was going through any kind of stress or whatever, or discomfort, it's understandable.
It's in between him doing Evita and
sure.
on Broadway and Sunday in the Park. And it's obviously this rich time in his theater career, hugely rich.
That energy was felt on set, though. That was an overarching.
He was not
thing.
happy.
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing of her directing, that was not something that was de rigueur happening in most scenes that you had with her, right? She was not breaking mid-take to sort of direct you internally.
I don't remember
in a
her
scene.
taking mid-take. I remember her being sometimes off camera talking me through stuff, I know I just finished her memoir, which I think is so well done. And I found her so moving. I found her infuriating every time she said she was late, because I realized I could never be friends with someone who was late as often as she is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Welcome
Sorry,
to David's life.
Griffin.
Interesting. Yeah. Before you arrived, Griffin, we were talking about lateness. That's all.
With reference to who?
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, but she in it, she talks about watching Ingmar Bergman work, and that he would sit on the floor talking up to someone who's on camera, feeding them stuff as they're acting, and she said she tried that on me too, that she enjoyed doing.
A lot of your performance is very internal and reactive. And a lot of it's, cultural of this is a woman who in this time and place would not really be speaking much. There's sort of your introduction in the movie is this oh, what a perfect woman. She stands, she smiles, she hands everything out, So so much of it has to be going on kind of underneath the skin. It's pretty deep into the movie before you really start talking and expressing emotion,
Yeah, I don't think acting has anything necessarily to do with how many lines you have.
No.
I think I like acting without lines.
Yeah.
Less to learn.
But she was really kind of guiding you through that with specific feelings and everything.
Very.
Yeah.
She knew exactly what she wanted. She conveyed it beautifully, and the clarity was there. The clarity and the joy,
Do Do you remember there being a significant amount of takes? It does sound like in the reading we've done that she was persistent.
We'll do it till we get it, whatever.
I didn't find she did too many takes.
Okay.
Sure.
You know, it's not like the Kubrick stories or anything.
Well, yes.
you know?
This is the scale we're trying to establish
Yeah,
of like
I don't think she reached that scale. You know, it was also she wasn't able to like watch things on
right.
as it. Yeah, I mean, you know, you have to know it's there before you move on.
Yes.
But she knew when she had it.
Do you rewatch? Like, have you rewatched YENTL, or do you not look at your old
I
movies?
haven't, but I may soon because my mother's 99 years old. She lives near me in an assisted living, and once a month she and I present movies there.
Nice.
Because she and I did 6 or 7 movies together. So we just ran out of the movies that we did together. She's been there a while. And so like last Saturday, I did Bossa Nova, a film that my son Gabriel's father directed. And I said to Mom, you know, she keeps wanting to she keeps coming up with films that I just don't think this group is going to like. But we just decided the next one might be YENTL. So I might watch it in a few weeks.
I mean, that sounds great. So, have you watched Carrie with this crowd? Because is your mom in Carrie?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, my mom plays my mom in Carrie. She's the one who collects me when I'm hysterical.
At the end?
Yeah.
Do you ever think about how you're in the most famous twist ending a movie ever had, basically?
Yeah. And you know what? When I saw it, first of all, when I read it, because before, I know this is about YENTL, but I'm going to go on to Carrie here. But
I'm talking about Carrie.
Because the ending for the film was not written when we started shooting.
Right.
So, and in the book, Sue Snell, my character, survives. But they were coming up with all these other ideas, whatever, and they hadn't figured it out yet. And there was like a campaign, you know. I mean, Betty Buckley was campaigning, you know, and everyone was wanting a piece. When they finally wrote it, and I saw what it is with the hand coming out, and it didn't read that exciting or
it sounds a little
frightening,
silly.
you know. So I thought, oh shit, and I'm the only one in the scene. This is not good. And so then we shot it. And it was great because Sissy insisted on being buried alive, you know.
Cool.
So it's her hand coming out of the rocks, and Brian is, you know, you have to walk very beautifully across these stones barefoot. And I'm like, but it really hurts. He goes, oh, but you need to glide. It's a dream, you know. And we had so much fun on that. And then I went and watched the movie by myself, and I knew the hand was coming out and stuff, so I wasn't scared.
Right.
And I just thought,
You thought
this
it didn't work.
does not work.
Wow.
It does not work. And I was a little embarrassed about it. Then I went to the preview in Hollywood. I think it was Halloween night or something.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole audience jumped out of their seats and scared the shit out of me. So I went, oh, I guess it works.
I just want to call out that when you said Sissy insisted on being buried alive, Ben's eyes went wide. He's been glowing.
I love the commitment.
It's like your jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But hopefully she didn't get corroded as badly as
Well, right.
yours.
She shouldn't
It's
spend
only in
as
there for a
long
couple hours.
as the jeans
Right,
were. Yeah.
Not about YENTL specifically, but in the YENTL era. Am I wrong in thinking at different points you were almost going to do both of the first 2 Indiana Jones movies?
No,
No,
just the first.
just the first one. Okay, but that would have been before this. Before YENTL.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
'cause that's
okay.
82.
The first one comes out 81. Yeah. It was in the period where you were treading the boards. Am I wrong about this?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about this. I was going to do it. I ended up falling for another man.
Mm.
And that just put a damper on Stephen's desire to put me in that movie.
Sure. The other man was YENTL, by the way, right? It was.
No, but it's interesting. Barbara takes credit for not only my marriage to Stephen, but my birth of Max. I mean, she thinks that Stephen asked to see dailies of me
Specifically.
Yeah. So
And also feel free to throw some Potemkin in there too.
yeah. But I mean, we had dated and we broke up, and it was years later, and he asked Barbara if he could see some cut together footage of me.
Wow.
He was in London, and she said sure, and she showed it. And the next thing we know, he's in India where I'm shooting a miniseries for HBO, and he starts to woo me again after that. So she's decided that she brought us back together.
I like the idea of this as being the most high-level Hollywood pre-social media version of obsessively looking at your ex's Instagram.
There you go.
How's she doing without me? Do I miss her?
There you go.
And you're just getting 35 millimeter dailies from YENTL.
Anyway, it worked.
It worked.
Yeah. And she also thinks that I got pregnant because I had confessed to her that I was really sad that Stephen was on the fence about starting a family, and I was ready and stuff. And she knew that made me sad. And she came to I think it was my 30th birthday party, and she gave me as a gift baby clothes.
Wow.
And at the time, I was a little I had mixed
Kind of
feelings
a passive
about
aggressive
Yeah.
gift
I
in a
had
way.
mixed feelings
right.
about it, but I got pregnant that night, so she takes credit for that
Jesus.
too.
I mean, as you said, Barbara Streisand gets what she wants, and what she wanted at that
Exactly.
time was for you to have a baby.
But
I
also,
guess so.
she's such a myth maker, and this is a perfect example of that, where she's like, it's all me. And you're like, I kind of can't dispute it, Barbara, sure.
She is magical that way. I have a story she might not love, but Barbara, when we went to Czechoslovakia,
Mhm.
you notice I'm not talking about how she directs. I mean, it's all personal.
Look, whatever.
I don't pay attention enough, I guess, I'm not like Bradley Cooper. I'm not learning at her side, but we went to Czechoslovakia, and the hotel there, the Intercontinental, had a spa.
Right.
And the night before my first day of shooting there, I decided to go have a massage.
Sure.
And
I would too.
I was really high.
Mm-hmm. Congrats.
Thank you.
That dank Czechoslovakian weed.
Yeah. And I went down there, and this guy gave me this massage. And at one point, and I'm really enjoying it so much. And then I started to think, I'm on my stomach, and he's starting to massage me from my ankle down to the top of my leg. And he seems to be doing that for a long time. And then I start thinking, are his fingers being a little bit daring there? I
Sure.
don't know. And then he goes on the other side, and I'm not sure. Is he being inappropriate or not? I'm not sure.
It's borderline.
It's borderline, but I'm loving it. Anyway, I'm really having a nice time. And then he turns me over, and he starts to not be so subtle. And I said,
Right,
I
sure.
can't go there with you, honey.
Sure.
And then that morning, first day shooting with Barbara, we're standing around the camera, and I'm telling her and the crew this story.
Uh-huh.
Barbara booked that man every night for the rest of the shoot.
God bless.
This is a woman who knows what she
knows
wants.
what she wants and she
She
gets
hears
it.
that, and she's like, sounds good.
I chapeau to her.
Exactly. I doffed my yeshiva cap to her.
Yep.
Oh man. That
You
rocks.
guys are all red.
No.
I mean, it's a great story.
I mean, really red, you guys.
No, Barbara could do what she wanted to. That's between Elliot and Brolin, right? Like she's a free lady.
Post Peters,
Yes.
he was not on set at all, right?
Yes, he was.
He was, but he was not a producer on it, right? This was like her firmly saying, "I need to make a movie without him," but he was around.
Not much. As a matter of fact, he was in Czechoslovakia. I don't remember seeing him in London, but I remember him in Czechoslovakia, and he and I drove out to the location in Zagreb together. How do I remember Zagreb? I don't know. And he was very upset that she would put a do not disturb on her phone at night, and he'd be in LA wanting to talk to her, and it was like, she's not only the star, but the director and the producer.
She's gotta sleep.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the matter with you?
How long do you stay? Like, are you still in touch with Barbara, or like, how do you stay in touch with her much after the movie? Like, is there a long lasting friendship? I don't know.
We kind of had a little falling out. She knows why. We talked about it. I don't carry it around.
We're not here to rehash beefs.
Yeah, but there was a little beef, and it just we're civil with each other. I've been to see her shows. I've gone backstage,
Sure.
but I don't. And I'd kind of like to write a thank you, a fan letter for her book, because I thought that was really beautifully
It's a
done.
little short, though.
I know.
Anyway,
I can barely use it to prop things open. I mean, it's just,
I'd like to send a fan letter. I have 2 fan letters to write, to her and to Bradley Cooper, because Maestro's
You're such
so
a Maestro
brilliant.
fan.
Well, I just saw it yesterday.
Fair enough. Okay. Right.
But I am a big fan. I think Bradley Cooper's genius. I will put that down.
Wow.
We
Out there in the world.
have been making the argument, or at least I've been making the argument, that I do think Bradley Cooper's career is proceeding in a slightly Barbara-esque way.
Right. He
even
does
though
A Star is Born.
they're very
kick
different
things off.
performers.
Right.
Yes. But I think there's some commonality between them as directors.
And just as like this sort of multi-hyphenate, like I write, I act, I direct, I produce, I sing, this.
And I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what they both really know what they're doing.
Yeah. And there's that era of Eastwood and Redford and Costner and Beatty and all these sort of A-list leading men who went on to also become directors and filmmakers and whatever. But I think in a way that most similar to Streisand, Bradley Cooper is making movies that are kind of dissecting his star persona. You know? Like, he's not just making films and also happening to star in them.
Sure.
It's not just he's putting himself into things that interest him. It feels like he's in a way that feels very Streisand. I mean, it's been reading all these quotes from her, but that her movies really feel like her trying to process elements of herself. And she talks about YENTL being this film about like her relationship to her father, who died when she was
A baby.
too young to remember.
Right.
You know, it's like a movie of her trying to communicate with her father.
Clearly.
Yeah. But can you hear me? It's right there.
It's all about her father.
It's actually kind of rude that Papa doesn't sing back.
Can I ask Oscar story? Wait, who beat you? Not to dredge up old
Let's
memories.
not frame it
I'm
that
so
way.
sorry.
Who
but
won the Oscar?
Who?
thing?
Yeah, they don't.
Oh, that's it's funny. When I was nominated, I knew I wasn't going to win, and I sat down next to Jim Brooks, he was
That
there
was
for
his
Terms
big
of
year,
Endearment.
right?
That was his
Yeah,
big year.
right.
And he turned to me and he said, Nick the Greek, I just read that you're 2-1. And I was like, so I was sweating bullets.
That you might have to give a speech.
Brooks
Yeah.
pumped you up.
So I'm the only woman in the world, I believe, who was so relieved when Linda Hunt got called.
Linda
Oh.
Hunt, right? Well, that's a great
That's for
performance.
the year of living
Very
dangerously.
unusual performance. but
Yes.
it's-
Yeah, well, I remember my agent at the time, Nicole David, handled both of us. And so she asked me to sign her program at the Oscars. And I wrote, if you think Linda Hunt playing a man is a stretch, catch Amy Irving as a virgin.
It's a loaded category. There's Cher for Silkwood, there's Glenn Close for The Big Chill, and there's Alfre Woodard for Cross Creek. These are all great actors.
But you felt a genuine sense of relief at not having to get up there.
Absolutely. I didn't have anything to say. I wasn't ready. And I don't like award ceremonies. I don't care about those things so much, you know. And I remember I won an Obie for Road to
Road to
Mecca.
Mecca,
And I wasn't going to go. And they called and they said, we think you should come. And so I knew I was winning.
Sure.
And I was still a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
You know, I never felt comfortable getting up and talking as
Seems
myself.
unbelievably stressful to me. Like
Oh, yeah.
going to an awards ceremony where I'm not nominated or whatever, sure, fine, it's a party. But no, the idea that I might have to get up there in front of everybody and seem natural and seem graceful
articulate
and right,
and make
you
sure
know.
you thank all the right people.
And if
it's
you don't
just-
thank this person, they're never going to let you hear
and
the end of it.
I
Right.
do believe, you know, if 5 actors play Hamlet, you know, go ahead and vote on which one played the best Hamlet.
Right, but how do you
Well,
compare?
that sounds like a Netflix like competition.
Yes.
Like,
Hamlet game.
off.
winner ratings on that one.
Yeah. No, but I think, look, David is a similarly bigger Oscar nerd than I. But for freaks like us with broken brains, it is a game I love to play of like watching the YouTube videos of the awards being handed out and just rewinding and looking at each
The
individual.
reactions.
Right. And it's a thing that is studied, right? Of like who seems pissed off, who does quote unquote a good performance of acting gracious. But now I want to rewatch and see if I can read the genuine relief in your face.
You will probably see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and there's just that 1 second of everyone's faces
Yes.
before you cut to, okay, now she's taking the stage.
But that must be like, to me, that seems like the most nerve-wracking part is there's now a camera guy like 3 inches away from you in the aisle
you
waiting
look
for
very
your
happy
face.
and you're clapping.
Oh, you got it?
Oh, I got it. Oh, yeah. Dang internet. You can get anything. Linda Hunt's got a great outfit.
I got such a bad review for my dress.
Really?
Yeah,
this
they
sort of
said-
white dress. This,
It's
yeah.
well, Ralph Lauren dressed me, and he put me, because I was a Santa Fe girl, and a hippie. You know, he dressed me perfectly for me. He had me in an antique white blouse with a long velvet skirt and a concho belt, because it was all very Santa Fe.
This is a good look.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
You know, and lace up antique boots. You know, they said I looked like Little House on the Prairie.
Rude.
I thought
They're
I
all
looked great.
rude. They're always so mean.
There are so many. And then the next year I was pregnant. Thank you, Barbara. And I presented and fell off the stage.
You
Did you
fell
really?
off the
Yeah.
stage at the
Well,
Oscars?
they had a not the full stage.
But
They
like
had
the
a they had
lip,
a
right.
well, they had a circle.
You pulled a Kelsey
What-
Grammer.
what
You
were
fell in
you-
the gap. Yeah.
No, it started to move, and I
Oh,
started to
wow.
fall, and actually, I think it was Pierce Brosnan saved me.
God, you know
Young
what?
Pierce Brosnan.
We've been talking about Pierce a lot.
He's
on
He
the
been
is
podcast
so
coming up
recently.
charming.
This is what we keep saying.
Best hair
And
in
his
the biz.
wife is so lovely.
And they've been together for a zillion years,
Yes,
right? They're one of
they're
those
great.
Hollywood
I don't know
couples,
them
yeah.
well, but every time I've ever met them and him, oh, he's a heartthrob.
Pierce has come up a weirdly large
Shouldn't sing.
amount. Well,
Well,
but we were arguing. There's
no,
something.
I'm with you.
There's something endearing about
There's
it.
something endearing
There's
about it
something
one
very
time.
endearing
One time.
about
Yes.
it.
That's it, though.
He maybe has the worst singing voice of anyone I've ever heard in a movie musical, but the energy behind it
Yeah, the
is
effort
pretty
is
charming.
I think we should wrap, Griffin. But
Yes.
is there anything else we should, any other memory we're
Nah, that's all
dredging
I got.
for?
I don't remember anything else. I think you got all my stories.
Did you ever, tell Barbara, like, don't talk to me too harshly? I made John Cassavetes explode with my mind. Did you ever
It's a
say
good thing
that?
to lord over people. Yeah.
Nah, I don't do that.
You don't threaten to blow anyone up with your mind.
I'll Cassavetes the hell out of you.
I mean, do you want to talk about Slow Christmas, your experience working on that
Yes,
project?
let's briefly mention that.
Oh my goodness! I have a new career now. My
Yes.
son Gabriel Davis Barreto has
He's with us
convinced
here.
me to start singing, and he put me together with this incredible band called Goulis, and we recorded our first album, which is kind of a memoir album. And we just done our second album, which is all Willie Nelson. And out of the blue, we get this invitation. Who asked us?
I believe it was Justin Schmidt from Missing Piece Group had reached out, correct?
There we go. Reached
Yeah.
out to Gabriel and said they were doing this slow. This was the 5th season that they're fifth.
Well, it's technically the 3rd Slow Christmas, but I started at 0, so it's the 4th.
So it's the 4th Slow Christmas, and they asked us to. We very nicely asked us to contribute.
Yes.
So 2 of the members of the band and myself got together in my apartment, and we threw a song together, "We Three Kings," and I'm very proud of it. It really came out really nicely, and so we're excited. I guess it comes out on the 24th.
It's really awesome, and we are going to be releasing this in the new year in January. But the next recording session we're doing, which is we're going to be covering Maestro. We're going to actually be promoting the release of the album.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Right.
Christmas
if anything, people have already heard.
It'll be
At this
available
point,
now, right?
yeah,
This is early
yeah.
January.
It'll
probably,
already be
right?
available. But if they haven't checked it out, they should listen on wherever they get music to Slow Christmas 3.
And your album
We
is
Three Kings.
Born in a Trunk, right? Is
The
that
first album
the
is
first
Born
album?
in a Trunk.
Right.
Yes.
That's a Judy Garland song, right? Am I crazy?
There is a song called "Born in the Trunk." I don't sing that one,
Oh,
but
fair
"Born in
enough.
the Trunk" is. I was brought up on the stage. I was put on the stage when I was 9 months old.
Right.
My dad had a theater. My mom was the lead actress in the company. All 3 of us kids were put on the stage. So my first role was the baby in Rumpelstiltskin. Hence, there's a song from Rumpelstiltskin
Yes.
on the album.
Oh, yeah.
I saw your review that you did at City Winery, which was so fantastic.
Humble
But the album, well, you know what?
You're
You
bragging.
could have been there if you wanted.
Didn't invite me.
I invited Richard Lawson, so Brendan and Tat.
I'll do it again.
Well, I was going to ask you, are you going to do another show?
Well,
Anytime
when we
soon?
launch the new album,
Okay.
we'll
Right,
definitely do another show, and I'll incorporate the first album songs with this. We'll be able to do a little bit longer concert because I only had 10 songs.
But what I love about the album, the show you did, is, as you said, it's like a bit of an autobiography, and you're sort of tracking your career through the songs of the projects. And some of them are things that you sung in those movies, and some of them aren't.
Right.
And some of them are songs that affect your life, No YENTL songs, but you did talk about YENTL on stage.
Well, yes, I didn't think I should follow that act.
Sure.
Right.
Right. That was
leave
the draft.
leave the singing to Barbara.
Right.
Yes.
Sure.
But you did the song from Carrie, and then the Why Don't You Do Right?
Why Don't You Do Right? Yes,
Yeah.
we did a completely different rendition. I mean,
Which is very good.
Jules is a really incredible arranger, And Willie Nelson had written a song for me called Waiting Forever for You, and he sang on it with me. There's some really beautiful, really terrific things on that. So, yeah, I'm having fun doing that. I have very little interest in doing anything else but sing.
Hey.
now. Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, thank you again. I really
Thank you for-
appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me.
Coming
course.
and come back anytime. Honestly,
I can see why you want to do it in person. It does make a difference, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Zoom
We hate
sucks.
Zoom.
Yeah.
We hate Zoom.
Especially
Yeah.
after the pandemic, we're sick of Zoom.
We
you
did-
know? We did enough Zooms.
18 months of nothing but.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah.
I know. Just to wrap it up, I know you said, you don't particularly seek out awards. That's not what you do it for. Do you feel like being asked to be part of Slow Christmas Volume 3 was a greater honor than the Academy Award nomination? Where do you rank the two of them in terms of like transformative moments in your career? Which felt more validating?
Time to go, Griffin.
Yeah, it's time to wrap up.
She's thinking about it.
I'm thinking.
Time to put you in a trunk.
She's thinking about it.
No, I think the Oscar might.
The Oscar is
have
better.
it.
Okay, Ben.
And I'm not offended at all.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Nice
Thank
to see
you.
you guys.